Welcome in to Pucks and Prosecco. In just a moment, I'll be joined by Chloe Thiel to do a Pucks and Prosecco style Stanley Cup final breakdown. Today's show is presented by Accurate America.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, everybody.
Hey!
Welcome to Pucks and Prosecco. I'm Megan Ingley. Chloe Thiel is here, and we are going to do a Pucks and Prosecco edition Stanley Cup final breakdown. Chloe, would you like to explain a little bit of what we'll be doing today?
We're sick of all of those normal previews that people put out, right?
Yes.
We know the stats, okay? We get it. We know who won last year. We're sick of that. So we need to do a preview based on really obscure things about each of these teams, and maybe just one of those will determine who actually wins.
And if something that
Never know.
we evaluate today ends up coming to fruition, like, okay, Florida is the winner, and it's probably because we decided they have the best mascots,
Right.
which you'll see in a second.
Mhm.
Maybe we even do a tally at the end of who came away with the most wins in these
Yes.
individual categories that are definitely important and
So
carry a lot of
important.
weight in deciding who's going to win the Stanley Cup this year.
Most definitely. These are the most important factors you have to look at when deciding who's going to win.
Perhaps the most important because they get overlooked and we don't talk
Yeah.
about these things enough
Or at all.
at all. Should we talk about some of these things?
Yes, we should.
Absolutely, we should. I think kicking it off with Best Mascot
Let's do it.
is a great place to start because I didn't realize I had a lot of feelings about this.
Right?
Until I dug into it.
You know, I also didn't think about when I was looking at it. Florida has 3 mascots. Who needs 3 mascots?
I only found 2. Chloe, who's the third?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so when I looked it up, I found Stanley Sea Panther is their original one, right?
Which, that's kind of presumptuous. Stanley Sea Panther.
Stanley Sea.
Okay.
Right. Victor E. Rat is the second one. And then I guess they picked up a third one. I don't know if it was just this past year, but it's Mini Stanley. So it's
Oh.
like Mini Bernie,
Okay.
but just Mini Stanley. I guess that is an official mascot.
To be fair, I did stumble across Mini Stanley, and I don't know why I discounted him, which that is on me. That is my bad. There are 3 mascots for the Florida Panthers.
But that's okay because here we have a picture of them here. I couldn't find a picture of Mini Stanley anywhere. Not with the 3 of them. It's usually just these 2.
What an elusive little guy.
Right? He's only around sometimes. So I would say that these are their 2 main mascots. Yes, they have a third. They don't need a third, okay? Nobody needs a third mascot. Nobody really even needs 2 mascots.
I was thinking about how that might give them an edge because they have 2 mascots and Edmonton only has 1, and
Right.
it's kind of unique. Now I learned they have 3, starting to feel a little bit greedy, starting to feel like it's hard to appreciate all 3 at once.
Right?
If you really want to be different, maybe start with 2, because I want to point out that Victor Erat lives inside the walls of the arena, which is really fun
Right.
and cool and a little bit terrifying.
Yeah.
And also that these mascots have stats. And so Stanley Sea Panther is 6'9".
That's too much.
That's really scary.
That's really scary.
But what I love about Victor Erat is
Mhm.
that he is a 5'8" short king. And I don't know if there's short king representation in mascots
I love
generally.
it.
So that also made me start to favor Florida a little bit,
Mhm.
especially looking at Brad Marchand. I think that
Short king.
he's a short king, and it just
Yes.
feels like Victor Erat is the embodiment of Brad Marchand.
Right.
And to have a mascot kind of capture the essence of one of your players is
Yes.
really special.
When did this mascot become a thing? Because
Recently, like 2014, 2016.
I wonder if since 2014 they just knew that they were gonna get Brad
the
Marchand.
Rat King himself.
They just knew it. They're like, we're going to make this mascot for him. And then eventually he's going to come play for us.
I love the lore of the
Right.
Rats with Florida. And
do
so
too.
bringing this to life, because it was kind of a fan, well, it was born from a real moment in the arena with a real rat in the arena,
Mhm.
but then the fans really ran away with it in
Yeah.
starting to throw the rats. And when Florida kind of faded into the shadows of irrelevancy for a brief period,
Mhm.
the fans stopped throwing the rats. But when Florida started to pick up steam again, the fans also conveniently, coincidentally, began throwing rats again. And so I think the rats have propelled a lot of the success of the Florida Panthers. And it was only appropriate then to sort of reward this lore that was perpetuated by the fans with its own mascot. You know, it's very much the embodiment of fan service to have Victor E. Rat come to life.
Victor E. Rat. Do they throw rats onto the ice after every goal or just after a win?
Now I think it's after wins, but I think
Okay.
they were throwing rats after goals
Because that's got to
as
get
part of the lore.
repetitive.
And tough on the goalies that are having rats raining down on them.
Oh,
It's got to
yeah.
be a tough feeling.
Yeah.
But I think the rats now onto the ice after wins and then launching the rats into Brad Marchand becoming a new tradition has really brought this rat story full circle for the Panthers.
You just know that he loves it too.
He does. He said that they're starting to get kind of rough with it though. Like
Oh,
Matthew Tkachuk, I
gosh.
guess, launched one into him and he felt it sting a little bit. So they need to be careful with
Ew.
the Rat King.
I was just thinking about how horrible it would be to get scored on and then to have a rubber rat hit you in the head.
Yeah,
It's just horrible.
that's got to be pretty tough.
Yeah.
But we haven't talked about the Edmonton mascot. I'm terrified of
I
the lore.
am too. What is this thing?
He has a full biography.
Okay, his name is Hunter, right?
Yeah, Hunter
He's
the
an
Lynx.
Anthropomorphic Canadian lynx. What the hell is that? No one asked me what that word means because I don't know.
He's so did you read his story?
I didn't.
I'm going to read a little bit.
Read it.
So
Read the whole thing.
it's quite long, several paragraphs.
Like 4 pages.
But like my lynx family and friends, I only come out at night to hunt. And one of those nights, I actually came across a bunch of kids playing hockey on an outdoor rink. During the winter of 2013, I heard many shinny players talking about a new world-class building that my beloved Oilers were going to play in. I was ecstatic and knew right then and there that this was my chance to get in on the action. On the night before the first shovel hit the ground, I packed up my stuff and made my way to 104th Avenue and 104th Street, where I built a secret den under the construction site, watching and waiting for this magnificent building to be completed. His love of hockey was born from going out at night to hunt and finding hockey players and falling in love with the sport when he laid eyes upon it. I was like, let's not lose sight of the fact that he went out hunting and then was stalking the hockey players.
Right.
Eventually went to the building and built a home under the arena, watching and waiting for hockey to be played there. And it just feels a little bit scary. I'm not sure. This is by their own account how Hunter the Lynx came to be, and it's just a little terrifying.
It's extremely terrifying. If that was the story of Bernie, I wouldn't like that at all.
No. So if you have to pick who's going to win the Stanley Cup final based on mascots alone, where are you at?
Florida.
I'm going
No
Florida.
question.
Hunter's terrifying. But Victor E. Rat, the Short King representation, really sealed this one for me.
Caroline said, Hunter has a 6-pack.
Does he need a 6-pack?
You don't need that on a mascot. This is for children. Well, sort of.
It
but
should
for the
be,
most part,
right?
it's for children,
You
right?
gotta ask yourself what goes into a mascot. Like, what qualities should they embody? And you think it should cater to children, right? So why should your mascot be like really strong and muscular is what I want to know.
But also, when does he ever take that jersey off? Why would he need to be shirtless? Because this would mean he would have to remove this jersey from his body for people to see that he has a 6-pack.
That's very Gritty behavior of Hunter. Because, I could see Gritty just clothing optional policy.
Yeah. But
running
that's
around.
Different because he's got a beer belly kicking.
He does. It spins.
Right.
It's got really good motion. Gritty, yeah, that's we'll do a league-wide mascot ranking eventually.
We should do that.
Yeah,
That's a great
eventually.
idea.
Because now I think I just haven't sat down and thought about mascots enough, and
Yeah.
maybe more of them are terrifying than I realized.
Yeah,
I thought they were meant to be more on the adorable side.
I thought so too.
So, who knows? But let's move on to some of our other criteria for
Mhm.
evaluating the Stanley Cup final. I love this. Best fan base. You want to kick it off?
Yes. So I don't know enough about both of these fan bases, so I had to do a little bit of research. When I looked up Edmonton fan base, I found a Reddit thread, and it was from someone that lives in Edmonton, and they said this fan base is the most annoying and obnoxious fan base they've ever encountered, which that's one person's opinion, but from someone living in Edmonton to say that their own fan base is annoying and obnoxious,
Yeah,
that I feel like that's
it's
just right where
interesting.
my head went. But when I look at Florida, slightly smaller because it's not Canada and they're living in a state that's 100 degrees every day, but I like their fan base, and I like one of the things I put down was I like that they throw the rats on the ice. I
like
think
the
it's fun
rats
and
too.
engaging.
Have you seen the Bobs?
The bombs?
The Bobs.
Bobs?
Yes. It's girls who wear, Sergei Bobrovsky jerseys and bright red short bob
Yeah.
wigs. And they have these TikToks to that
Yeah.
Nicki Minaj Bob song.
Yep.
And there's 3 of them. There's these 3 little cuties, and they're the Bobs. And so that representation for Florida really catered to me. I love it.
Me too.
Love the Rats.
Mhm.
On the Edmonton side, I saw a lot of different get-ups for Edmonton fans. I think I've
Yeah.
also seen some Edmonton fans casting spells,
Mhm.
which is hilarious.
Perfect.
It could have been Florida too, honestly. I've seen a lot of spell casting in these playoffs, which is hilarious. But there were some girls in the Lauren McDavid corsets
I did
from
see
her
that.
line, and I thought those
They
were
were
very
beautiful.
cute. Those
Yes.
were very cute.
Yes.
But Edmonton has Ben Stelter. He was the 6-year-old who passed away after a battle with cancer, but his bond with Connor McDavid was really well documented.
Mhm.
And that's sort of where Play La Bamba and the La Bamba song really picked up steam for Edmonton. And so on behalf of the Edmonton fan base, Ben Stelter gave them the win in my eyes, despite the Rats, despite the Bobs, which I love all of it. Ben Stelter on the Edmonton side is why they got the win for best fan base.
See, this one's hard for me because I know, I would rather a Canadian fan base win, and we're talking about Canada. I know that these fans are very respectful and probably very kind, and they're probably not as obnoxious as these people are saying. To me, I think it's more impressive to have this fan base and the growth of this fan base in a state like Florida.
It's a great call out.
So that being so impressive to me makes me want to give Florida the win for this one.
I like this a lot. I think we're going to have some split decisions and some potential ties where maybe we can't decide between the two. So mark this one as a split vote for best fan base. So we'll have to decide on some other factors here.
Yes, we will.
I think the next one in your list is a more serious analysis. We're going to go line by line, keying in on the second line in particular.
Yeah, we started with third line, and I thought it would be a little more interesting to do second line. Didn't want to do first line because that's kind of basic, So based solely on the second line for Florida, you have Carter Verhaeghe, Sam Bennett, and Matthew Tkachuk. For Edmonton, you have Evander Kane, Leon Draisaitl, and is it Kasperi? It is, right? Kasperi Kapanen. What are you thinking?
This is tough. I think the star power of Draisaitl gives Edmonton's second line a bit of an edge, but the balance of Verhaeghe, Bennett, Tkachuk, I think, Kapanen's kind of the weaker link in going side by side with these lines. Yeah. And a healthy Evander Kane is a huge boost to Edmonton's top 6. But what Sam Bennett has been in these playoffs has been such a beast to play against. Carter Verhaeghe's been a significant factor on Florida's power play and the success that they've had. And then Matthew Tkachuk, no matter how you feel about him, I think the way you feel about him says a lot about why he is so effective. And
Yeah.
it's because he's such a warrior on the ice. He just has, I talk about it as like a Gabriel Landeskog quality. It's heart, it's being able to play in big moments too, and not succumb to the pressure of them very easily, but rather be galvanized by it. And it's a really special quality that players like Matthew Tkachuk, Gabriel Landeskog, they have that heart of a warrior. And so I think the balance of Florida's second line starts to come away in that conversation a bit, but I don't want to take away from the sheer star power of Leon Draisaitl as a top 5, top 3 player in this league. He's pretty impressive in his own right. That has to carry a lot of weight too.
Based on how I feel about Matthew Tkachuk, it makes me just want to give them the win solely on that. I just like who he is as a player, and I do exactly like you're saying. I like his heart and everything that he puts into the game. But I don't know. This one's hard. This is why I liked this one instead of the third line. I think these two are really comparative.
I still loved your third line one.
That's true. We
I
could
still loved
still do it.
You say it wasn't as interesting, maybe so, but I loved the obscurity of it. And I think my quick notes are that it's easy for me to have Florida come away with the third line conversation, just because of Brad Marchand, but also what a 23-year-old Anton Lundell has done for them, and Lusterinen has been awesome for them. I know he's kind of in the day-to-day category, but he should be good to go for game 1. So he's been impressive in these playoffs too. I don't know if I'm just giving Florida a lot of an edge in the roster construction.
Yeah.
They're very well balanced.
Yeah, I see this one's hard because this is one where I truly don't know which one I would pick. But I don't know. If I was going with just my gut, I would say Florida wins this one.
I'll have Florida coming away with it. And it'll come down to balance, but players like Draisaitl can steal games. And I think that players like Matthew Tkachuk can in their own right as well. But yeah, I think players like Draisaitl can even steal a series. And so I'm still giving Florida the edge, but I want to try and assign some proper value to what Draisaitl means for that second line and the 1-2 punch that McDavid and Draisaitl pack down the middle. Again, I think Bennett's been great for Florida in these playoffs, just a little bit different in what he brings compared to a player like Draisaitl.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. I liked also keying in on the D pairs, looking at their second D pairing, because I think it'll lend itself to a conversation we have a little bit later in the show about which team had the biggest glow up. Since this is a Stanley Cup final rematch, both these teams look a little different from what they looked like last year. And I think one small example of this is keying in on the D pairs and looking at that second pairing in particular. Who do you think?
So for this one, I actually was looking at just like points in general. So for Edmonton, you have Darnell Nurse and Brett Kulak. They each have 5 points in the playoffs so far, which is decent. That's okay for a second pair. For Florida, you have Nico Mikkola and Seth Jones. I like Seth Jones a lot. I also liked watching Nico Mikkola in the Four Nations Face-Off tournament, and together they have 14 points this playoffs.
I do think the overall contributions from Florida's back end has been a secret key to their offense. They've gotten production from everybody on their blue line, and it's been a combination of speed and physicality from Nico Mikkola, and Seth Jones obviously has the puck skill and the finish. This was a huge get for Florida that just made an already defensively sound back end, now injecting a little bit of skill execution into it. Really well-rounded, really complete. But I want to shout out the huge step forward that Darnell Nurse has taken in these playoffs for Edmonton. This is a player that I've been critical of in the past for having a contract value that just hasn't lived up to what he actually brings on the ice. And I think in these playoffs, he's played a hard physical game away from the puck, using his legs and a little more puck skill than I gave him credit for when he does have the puck, and taking on top matchups. So especially in the absence of Matthias Ekholm for Edmonton, Darnell Nurse has really stepped up. And then Brett Kulak also surprised me a little bit with his motor, his speed, ability to get up the ice, kind of the speed bursts from him. So maybe the production hasn't stood out quite the same way that a Jones and a Mikkola has. But I think that what they've been for Edmonton was crucial for their success through this point, because it was the area of the lineup for them to get strongest. It's hard for me to bet against a second pair that includes Seth Jones, a top pair defenseman who was on a struggling Chicago team for a long time. I think this role has fit him so much better, and that's why he's finding some success. So I think I'm going to defer to Florida again.
Me too.
But this one's really close, especially with the huge step forward that Darnell Nurse has taken. He's representative, too, of a lot of the physicality for Edmonton and eats up huge minutes on their PK. It feels like I'm picking Florida for everything, and I feel a little bad.
So far. Oopsies.
Who do you feel?
Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of it was just because of Seth Jones. No offense to Nico Mikkola, but yeah, that was a huge ad for them.
It is. It's a luxury to be able to deploy a player like Seth Jones on a second pair.
Yeah.
So just another masterclass of roster construction from the Florida Panthers. I'm not salty about it. I love this next one. We have audio for you guys.
We do.
To weigh in on this one, because I listened to it at home, and so I have weird notes for what I would describe the sounds to you guys.
Great. That's fantastic.
For Edmonton, I wrote alto train. Does that make
Did we say that this is goal horn?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Like, alto train, guess what we're doing? Guess what it is?
Guess what it is.
Okay, let's see. Here is their, I hope this is the right one. I just looked up 2025 Edmonton goal horn playoff.
Perfect.
So hopefully this is specific to this year's playoff. All right, that's enough.
Alto train. Do you? Yep.
See, but isn't alto low? Really low?
Yes, because compared to the mezzo soprano train, that is the Florida Panthers goal horn.
Interesting that you know all of these terms. I thought the Oilers one was like too high pitched for me.
Really?
Yeah, like it hit a spot in my brain that I was like, oh God, I don't like
to me,
it.
it felt too guttural and low.
Oh, interesting.
But now let's hear Florida side by side, because you know, I'm not a musician. I think it's higher in my brain.
Interesting.
It sounds like it's a register it should be at, but also I listened to a version, I think it's a playoffs version, that has panther noises, like growling. Yeah, it
like
goes
that.
like that. And so I was like, all right, you might just win another one, Florida.
I'm giving this one to Florida. I like that goal horn a lot. I like it. It feels like a gladiator noise. Just feels powerful and strong. And Edmonton's is like,
for the mascot that has the six-pack, right? It just feels like we need to we need to decide what we want to be, Edmonton.
So true. Are you gonna have a six-pack or are you not?
Right. We got to pick our vibe here.
Yeah, this one is going to Florida for sure.
I am excited to lead on you heavily for this next one, Chloe.
Oh my gosh, okay.
This is their social media admins.
Yes.
And you are the expert. You've probably looked at both social medias over time. who has
all the time.
inspired you more? Who's got the right pulse for it?
So I have some pictures of both. So here's Florida's, and this is, keep in mind, this is just a screenshot of a few of their posts in the thousands and thousands that they have put out. I like the color scheme better, and that's not really because of social media, right? Like, they didn't choose to be like to have red, but
Yeah.
also I just love the way that red looks on a social media profile. And I just like the different things that they post. You can see that they're, there's highlights, there's fans, there's these memes that they put out, these cool pictures that they've taken, stats, videos. I don't know. I like that a lot. And then we look at Edmonton's.
Ooh, okay. Aesthetically,
Aesthetically
I really
pleasing,
like.
right? I like the colors less, but I do like how bold the colors are. And I think it makes for, like, your feed looks a lot better when you have those really bold colors.
Yes.
I think that there's less diversity here, it seems, and also just a screenshot of the many of thousands of posts, but lots of stats. It seems like there's a little bit less content-wise here.
I like that it feels to be threaded together, though. Like, the template feels very
That is true.
cohesive, post to post, and it's hard just based on the one screenshot from Florida. It felt like it was a little less jointed, but I have a friend who works with the social media in Florida. So
Nicole,
and
yes,
there was
Nicole.
a very good post of a text conversation.
Yes.
And it said, "Girl, don't go back to the final. That would be 3 years in a row. You need to let other teams have a turn." It said, "I won't," in reply with a thumbs up. "You promise?" "Yeah," with a little rat and a little smile. And then at 3 a.m, "Oh my God, you're going to hate me."
I loved that. I wonder if that was actually, I've never met Nicole, but she used to work for the Broncos.
Yes.
And she did social for them. And so I've always just followed the stuff that she does. And when I saw she was going to Florida, I was like, oh, this is going to be good.
I love this post. She put it on her story, so I can't confirm if she had a hand in this specifically,
right.
but something tells me she was a brainchild behind it.
Yeah.
And she used to work for the Colorado Eagles. So that's when I first met her. And she moved up quickly and is really awesome. So this is hard because I just gave a lot of love to Edmonton's cohesion, their attention to aesthetic and continuity, love. But Florida's got like a little bit of chaotic energy,
right?
Like the meme that was in the grid that you just had. There's a little bit of chaos and edginess behind that. That little guy holding the puzzle piece, like, that's a little weird, but I like a little weird.
Me
so
too.
That's gonna cater to me. Me too. Which leads to our vote. Florida. Guys, Florida's got this in the bag.
Oh, I mean, I've only picked Florida for all of these.
I'm trying to think. You're right. I don't think, except for the split with the fan base.
Yeah.
All right. This one, I also really don't know. Who has the most teeth?
Okay, so I put this one in here and hoping that I could do enough research to figure it out. I couldn't. It was really hard.
We don't have to spend too much time on it then, because I found it hard too. There aren't any, like, tons of guys who are missing teeth.
Right. I thought we should just base it off of, like, who we think has the most
teeth.
feels like they have the most teeth.
Who feels like they have the most teeth.
Yeah.
Edmonton feels like they have the most teeth.
I agree.
Because I assumed that Brad Marchand was missing more teeth than he actually is. I think he's really only dealt with, like, a tooth chip. I don't think he's as toothless as I thought. But the energy of the Florida Panthers feels toothless.
This goes back to the chaotic energy we were talking about.
Yes.
While it's beneficial to have that in social media, maybe not when we're thinking about who has the most teeth. Yes. Because you being chaotic makes me think that you have less teeth.
You have less teeth.
So I'm going with Edmonton. I think Edmonton has more teeth. We could be wrong.
We could really be wrong. Haven't counted.
When you're looking at the headshots of each of them, Some of them are smiling with their teeth, some of them
A
aren't.
lot are not smiling with teeth.
So I didn't want to make a guess because you can't really see
Right.
it.
Then you're going down this rabbit hole of looking up videos of guys speaking, and it's just
right.
starting to
And
get
I'm like, oh,
a little weird.
can't
I
do
don't need to
it.
be this invested in either team. But I do need to be a little more invested in knowing who has the best hair
okay.
between the two. Because I got more information for this one, but I still was a little bit split.
Okay. Did you get like did you actually pick who has best hair? Do you have players from each team?
I do
that
have
you think
players from
best
each,
hair?
yeah, that I'm like, okay, I kind of like his hair. And there's kind of different hair represented. That was a weird way of saying it.
Yes.
Represented. And also, Florida has 2 balls. So does that deduct points?
So wait, who's their other bald?
They have Nate Schmidt and Sam Bennett.
Okay, so for best hair, I wrote down Darnell Nurse / Sam Bennett. Because I couldn't figure out which team I liked with the best hair, so I wrote down the 2 people that were bald from each team.
Who is on Edmonton?
Darnell Nurse.
Darnell Nurse
is bald. Is he still bald? Hopefully.
Yeah, in my
He
head
might
he has
have
a
a little
short
hair
shave,
now.
but like buzzed. But that's
Yeah,
that is
see,
what
this is
bald
this
is.
is the way I think of him. Let me pull this up really tight here so everybody can see.
Oh my god,
it.
no, he's fully.
Why am I going the wrong way?
I don't
You
know why I
can't see
imagined
that.
it being
Shoot.
like a short shave.
In this picture, he's completely bald.
Yeah, he's a bald. Okay.
So that's basically what I was basing this off of. I don't know if right now he might not be bald.
To be honest, I really don't see them without their helmets enough.
Yeah.
But we've got a shout out for Leon Draisaitl in the chat. He does have really good slicked back hair, which was interesting. In my hair research, you've got guys who kind of opt for a slicked back look on both teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then guys who just kind of have a fluffier mop. So like Matthias Janmark on Edmonton has actually like a ton of hair.
Mm-hmm.
But so does Kulikov on Florida. Pretty thick mop. So it's like, okay. And then Aaron Ekblad kind of has slicked back hair.
Yes.
I think Leon Draisaitl has better slicked back hair. I think Gustav Forsling has kind of nice hair, like a Bond villain kind of look.
Do you think Kachuk has good hair?
So I wanted to shout out the curls.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know, like it's for me, but a nice head of curls is good.
And you have to take care of curls. You do.
The curl care is
I wonder
ridiculous.
what he does for those curls.
Are we talking a pomade, a mousse,
right?
Something kind of waterproof? Or do they just naturally spring to life when he's playing hockey?
Which would be even more impressive when he gets a little sweat mixed in there and then the curls just pop.
I was just thinking about the I'm blanking on the name of the hair tool that you use to dry your hair when you have curls.
The diffuser.
The diffuser. I wonder if a helmet acts like a diffuser with the pressure that it's causing on the curls to reinforce the curl pattern.
Yeah.
Because they stay kind of intact, whereas I think hockey helmets kind of wreak havoc on a lot of hairlines. So for Matthew Tkachuk to keep the curls intact is pretty impressive.
So who's your pick?
This is tough. It's tough. I want to see Edmonton should get bonus points for having Leon in his hair. I think he came away as kind of the best hair of the group in my eyes. Because I want to give both these teams a shout out. I usually see a lot of really tough hockey hairlines across the team.
Yeah.
But both teams had a lot of really, because McDavid's hair is very normal.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like best hair, but it's good hair.
It's good
and so, all right, I like this Stuart Skinner shout out from Mustache too. And honestly, I think he has good hair. Let me see.
That could be its own category because I mean, who even from Edmonton has a mustache?
Long hair. He's got the slick back look.
Yes.
I'll give this one to Edmonton. It's kind of tough though. Both teams have pretty good hair, and I think Florida having 2 balls is maybe where
right. It's the lack of hair. So I'm also gonna give this to Edmonton because the only thing I can think of is having a lack of hair rather than who has the best hair.
I don't want to dunk on balds.
Sorry. We love bald people.
Right, that's like very Vin Diesel of them. I love Jim Montgomery.
Yeah. If Jared Bednar was bald.
You take it back.
The silence is deafening.
Definitely taking that back. All right, so we got a win for Edmonton.
Yay! That's 2. That's 2 in a row.
That's 2.
Wow.
This one was also a little hard for me.
Oh, this was so easy for me.
Best dad vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I took it very literally, I'm not as aware of everyone who's a dad on each team.
Yeah.
But when I put myself in Chloe brain for a second, I was like,
Yes.
who has the best dad vibe, which
Yeah,
is what
right.
you wrote.
Right.
That's a little easier for me to pick Florida.
Okay. Me too.
Okay. What?
Do you have a person in mind?
Sorry. The Paul Maurice, also bald, is cracking me up. All right. Edmonton was the rifle winner. That's what I've decided with that for hair. Best dads. Okay, first, Brad Marchand is the ultimate dad vibe.
You read my
He's
mind.
a walking dad joke.
Look at that.
He's a walking dad joke. I didn't have a place in this list to put this in because I was gonna write very, very niche best intermission snack because he's been crushing blizzards in between periods.
Has he?
Dairy Queen blizzards. Brad Marchand's eating them in between periods.
Wasn't somebody, I can't remember who this was, so maybe I'm just making this up, but they were talking about how there's certain players that drink like Coke.
Ovi.
Is it Ovi?
Yeah.
Shoot, I was thinking for some reason that it was Brad Marchand.
I wouldn't doubt that he's also, because of the blizzard.
Right.
I wouldn't doubt if he's also throwing back some
hilarious.
Diet Cokes.
Oh, yeah.
To watch his figure, obviously.
Oh, obviously.
So, I mean, Brad Marchand alone really carried the dad vibes, but there's actual dads
Truly.
like Bobrovsky's a girl dad.
Yep.
Barkov, a dad. I think girl dad. I'm not sure if it's girl or boy, but he's a dad for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just some younger guys that are springing to mind on the Edmonton side that I know aren't dads yet either.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be dads one day, but the dad vibes are off the charts. And there's something about Bobrovsky, just in net what he represents to the team also. Like, is he a goaltender or is he there to be dad?
Or
and
is he dad?
Is he dad? So the dads were off the charts.
Are you dad?
Papa?
Are you Papa?
Oh my God. Evan Rodriguez is an amazing dad. His little ones used to be
from his Instapics, yes.
At warm-ups in Ballerina all the time.
Zach Hyman wrote a children's book?
Okay, he did though. He did.
Does he have kids? He probably, right?
He's
writing a children's book.
He probably does. Let's look up the book.
Technically, he's not in the lineup though, so
whoa.
Can we count
how
it?
How many books does he have?
That's actually crazy.
Hockey Hero and the Bambino and Me, 2 inspiring sports-themed picture books. The Magician's Secret is his 3rd book for children. This needs a separate award. Oh my gosh.
Best writer.
There
you go. That's a win for Edmonton.
Perfect.
There we go. That's amazing. But
new category just emerged.
Florida's definitely taking this one. I literally just wrote down Brad Marchand.
That's perfect.
And that was my winner. He has 3 kids also, if nobody knew that, which is a lot of children.
Wow.
So he is certified dad.
Certified
dad vibes.
Dad.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Best arena.
I have some pictures here.
Perfect.
They're outside though.
No, I like that because that's where I started to form a little more of my opinion.
Right. Rogers Place. These are both like nighttime-ish, right after sunset photos. You get a better idea of all the lights around it and stuff. This is some crazy architecture we're working with. And then on the other side, is it Amarant? Amarant? Something like that? Amarant Arena. This one, maybe I was a little biased in selecting the pictures because this one just feels prettier to me. Sunset, all the lights that they have, the palm trees, the windows and the players on the windows and the logo.
Wow. Yeah, that's what I saw when I was looking these up and I said, that looks really fun.
So fun.
It matches the vibes of Sunrise, Florida very well. I thought that the design of Rogers was a little bit cold and metallic, just lacking a little bit of personality. But where I'm going to give Edmonton some credit is I think of the arenas, theirs is much newer. So it's probably really outfitted with the newest, the best tech. They've got the scoreboard that's like in the center, I think similar to what the Avs have for the display and just the giant display. But Florida has the Fanboni experience.
Yeah.
And that's where you get to put a ton of fans in the ZAM during intermission and ride around. And Ariana Grande, once upon a time, rode the Zamboni at Amarant Arena. Yeah, she's a Florida Panthers fan in my mind, at least. She was there once. So I don't know. This is kind of giving an edge to Florida again.
Me too. See, what's hard about this one is, I mean, it looks like if Ball Arena had no windows.
Yeah, the inside should be considered. Like, it should have more expansive, spacious concourse areas, especially because it is newer. So that's where it's tough, right? Like, I think they're probably outfitted with the newest and the best and probably bigger. But I don't know. I still think Amarant Arena. I feel like I'm saying it weird each time.
I agree.
I also
This goes to Florida.
I'm so sad that the blizzard wasn't really a blizzard. Caitlin's story in the chat mentioned it was proven to be honey. And that is true. It was honey. But I really, really like believing it was a blizzard.
Debunked it. Like, who's making up these rumors about him?
Who do you think is encouraging it? Who do you think when asked?
Biz, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and like he was asked,
Biz.
"Are you, eating a blizzard?" He's like, "Yes." He's lying, and then he came out and said it was honey.
A primary example of a dad joke, because only a dad would say yes.
No, exactly.
To, I'm eating a blizzard.
No, exactly. He perpetuated the rumor about himself. So, sorry for our ADHD. Back to the arena. This, I don't know. Florida just matches my vibe. I like that.
I like the vibe.
I like the
more.
colors. I like the
colors too.
Leaning into the local vibe. Okay.
This next one's fun.
Most popular food in the area.
So, when I sent this to you, so obviously for Canada, it's poutine, right?
Well, and so I associate poutine more so with like Montreal. When I was looking up Hunter, the Lynx lore, his favorite food is green onion cakes. And that's apparently a specialty in Edmonton. Green onion cakes, kind of like pierogies, the green onion cakes, like a pancakey. Food.
Yes, yeah.
And that sounds good. That sounds right up my alley. I like that.
Well, I love poutine. I really do. I'm gonna pull up this picture of.
I love poutine too.
I love it so much. And here's the green onion
cakes.
That also, I do love green onions, so I would probably like that a lot. And then on the other side of it,
I'm excited to see what you came up with for this, because we didn't have anything in the sheet.
I didn't know what food Florida was famous for. And when I looked it up, it said,
yes,
key lime pie. I hate key lime pie.
Oh, I love key lime pie.
Interesting. Yeah, this one's pretty clear to me. It's going to Edmonton.
So I included the Cuban-inspired flair of like Miami, Florida area. And so I included sandwich, media noches, cubanos. And they're so good. I love them so much. But this is me like really inserting this into a food special to Florida. So there's like a lot of my family lives there. So Puerto Ricans, Cubans, a lot of that food represented in Florida. That's why I gave Florida a win. In addition to loving key lime pie, it came away with the win in my book.
Okay, that's good, because then we're split.
We're split. Okay, perfect.
See, we're being fair. We're being fair. I can't remember if I sent you this one, but this is just another one I added. Where would you rather live?
Oh. This is hard because I've heard that Edmonton is nice. and probably would remind me of Denver in ways. And I love Denver. So that might be good because I like warm weather, but I've never lived somewhere outside of Okinawa, Japan, where it was humid, tropical all year long. I like visiting those places. Do you know right away?
Edmonton.
Edmonton?
Yeah. I just wouldn't be able to stand living in the heat in Florida
Okay.
and going outside and it's constantly hot and humid.
Yeah.
It really bothers me to be sweaty. So that's why it's 20 degrees in the studio. Because I would
Yeah.
so much rather be cold than be sweaty and oily. So Edmonton is my pick. I would also just love to live in Canada. I think that'd be so fun.
I think so too. I love being close to hockey in so many ways, right? Like both obviously have an NHL team, but
Right.
I love being close to other leagues, and I just don't know how much hockey has taken off in the surrounding areas for Florida. I'm sure I'd find my way, but Edmonton might have a win from my book as well. I think it'd be closest to what I know that I love about a place. And I like Canadians. They're nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd really thrive in Miami nightlife either.
No.
I don't think that would go well for me. All right, this one is, who do you think would have the best celebration? Like, who do you think would party the best with the cup?
Florida. Well, but let's think about it this way. With Canada having not won a cup in so long, do we think that if Edmonton won that they would just go absolutely bonkers?
That was what I was like 32 years since a Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup. I think Canada would show up, show out
Right.
for this. So I think it would be pretty crazy. But we have a little evidence to point to with Florida and how they would celebrate because they are the reigning champs. So they take it to the ocean, they take it to the strip club. You've got players going on poles, and they are permitted to operate 24 hours in the Miami Entertainment District. And so they stay open all night long. They can party out in the streets all night long.
Yep.
Whereas Edmonton, things are going to start shutting down a little bit earlier. Like, look, there's still probably some late night options, but something about not being able to serve alcohol before 8 a.m. after like the bar close time, even at some of the late night establishments. So I think Edmonton would have some limitations, but the Canadian of it all also carries a lot of weight here.
Right.
But now I'm trying to think about who would party with the cup the best. And Florida was pretty wild. I don't know.
I'm going to pick Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give Edmonton this one. Cuz I wonder if it's like both can party with it great. Florida obviously can party with it great. But winning it back to back, does it just take a little bit of the steam off of it, or is it better? Right? It's like, I don't know.
Or it's double the celebration.
Or it's double the celebration. I don't know. It's hard to say. All right. The next one is going to be the best leadership, but specifically outside of the captains, right? Like, I didn't want to compare captain to captain, but just kind of the supporting cast of leadership for each team. So for Edmonton, we've got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Leon Draisaitl, Darnell Nurse. And for Florida, we've got Matthew Tkachuk and Aaron Ekblad. But obviously, there's other leaders who don't wear letters that can be factored into this conversation.
This is what I was thinking of. Do you really need 4 alternate captains? That seems like one too many.
Right, like we've got Florida with 17 mascots, and now we've got Edmonton with 17 alternate captains.
Yeah. I think after a while when you're like, I think you should, I don't know, it's hard because it really depends on the team, but I don't think that having 4 alternate captains makes them have like better or more leadership. I think it's honestly better to have, 3 alternate captains and then everyone else that is behind that is like a leader without being told that they're a leader.
Yeah. Like who am I missing for Edmonton? Who's the fourth? I think they've got Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, and Nurse.
Yes.
And then McDavid is the captain.
Yes.
Perfect.
Florida. Did I say Edmonton?
Florida's got Tkachuk, Ekblad.
I have Alexander Barkov, Tkachuk, Ekblad, Forsling, and Sam Reinhart.
Oh, I did not have them as assistants. They might be wearing letters.
Let me look at this.
Well, and I wonder if it's is any of it injury? Like when Reinhart wasn't in the
Right.
lineup, this guy
Let's
wore the
see.
letter.
And alternates. Yeah, this is just 2024, 25. I guess it just doesn't give
This is hard. Yeah.
reasoning for it, because then like when you're looking at the list of Avs captains and alternate captains, Miko's still on there. And then
Oh,
Taves is also on there because Taves got it when Miko left.
yeah.
So maybe it's just not updated.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
as far as I know, it's those
I
five.
gotcha. Well, that's interesting because I do think of all of them as leaders. You know, in the same way that I consider Marchand an extension of their leadership, and I can recognize the value of having different types of leaders represented in the leadership core. And so, like McDavid by himself, I think has strengths as a captain that are rounded out by some of the different tangibles that a Darnell Nurse brings, for example. I think he represents experience and veteran presence in the leadership group. Draisaitl, just a complementary piece to McDavid in terms of the way they play, but I imagine in leadership it translates to that too, kind of lead by example in a lot of ways. And Draisaitl's never been one to mince words with media. He really speaks his mind, but I think it's refreshing to have that represented somewhere, right? Like you've probably got some players who feel like they need to be more watchful of what they say, and Draisaitl's kind of a sharpshooter. I think McDavid's become more direct in how he deals with media, though he still is a little bit more poised. And then Ryan Nugent Hopkins, his like leadership style reminds me of what I think Jonathan Drouin brings to the Avs. Like it's not like he's a calming presence. He obviously brings a lot of skill to the top of the lineup too. And I think sometimes the calm presence representation is important to neutralize any hotheads, like, you know, what Drouin does for McKinnon.
Yeah.
I think Ryan Nugent Hopkins can do for Edmonton.
I like Edmonton for this one. And I know we don't want to base it, we want to base it off of the whole group and maybe not just the captain, but I think a big part of this with McDavid is seeing the documentary from last year and the passion and the emotion that he put into the final. That's enough to give Edmonton the win for this.
I think, you know, because he is such a young captain, that side of McDavid, one, it just wasn't really seen before, and so maybe it existed, but having the docu-series capture that a little bit helped me to see a different side of him. That was a little bit more passionate. I probably wouldn't have thought of him as a vocal leader before that. And so seeing that, it did change my mind. What's tough is like Barkov is a very calm captain. And so I think Tkachuk being represented in the Florida leadership core is what gives them a lot of vibrancy, a lot of voice, a lot of life. I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, they represent different things throughout their leadership.
Yeah. So in kind of talking about both, they both have a good mix of different types of leaders.
Yeah.
That it's hard for me to pick the best all-around leadership, because where I start to, you know, lean towards Florida is now having former Boston Bruins captain Brad Marchand also just in their lineup and having that experience in addition to guys who've won and have done it in players like Barkov and I think, you know, represented in there too, the Forslings, the Reinharts is important. And then Matthew Tkachuk being the heart and soul in how he represents his leadership. I'm gonna go with Florida on this one. It's
Okay.
it's tough, and we've got another split, some more Edmonton representation,
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah.
All right, we're winding it down. We just have 2 more categories,
Mm-hmm.
for me at least. Best special teams. This is just a serious one, and it's kind of a straight up one, honestly. Edmonton, 12 power play goals through 40 opportunities for one of the best ranked power plays in these playoffs, especially through more opportunities. It's technically 4th ranked. Players like Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins have been lights out in creating opportunities for them on the man advantage, and Corey Perry leads the team with 4 power play goals, which is just
Yeah.
fun. Well, I don't know if fun is the word I'd use for that. Just an unlikely suspect, maybe, is the better word.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Florida's side of it, for the power play specifically, they have 13 power play goals, but through 56 opportunities. So it's actually a 6th ranked power play, operating at 23.2%. But players like Carter Verhaeghe have been really critical, scoring goals for them, and Matthew Tkachuk, a really big playmaker on that top unit for them. So side by side, still kind of top power plays through these playoffs, especially when you look at as the playoffs have gone on through more opportunities, being able to convert the clip that Edmonton has is really impressive. But I don't want to take away from Florida's ability to convert on the man advantage too. But where this starts to separate is on the penalty kill.
Mm-hmm.
I think as of late, in particular, Edmonton's penalty kill has run into some struggles. They've faced 16 goals against through 47 opportunities for a 14th ranked penalty kill at 66%. You look at Florida's penalty kill, and it is the best in these playoffs. 7 goals against through 58 opportunities, operating at 87.9% success rate. Players like Forsling have been huge on the kill. Aaron Ekblad, Tomáš Nosek, a 4th line player, like in the same way that we talk about Logan O'Connor and his strength on the penalty kill, Nosek has been that for Florida. So strength of special teams, you've got the best power play going against the best penalty kill, but a good power play for Florida still that I think gives them the edge in the special teams battle.
We might have to separate these two, because immediately when I'm thinking about this, I want to give power play to Edmonton, penalty kill to Florida. And they're just so, I mean, it's like they're the opposites when you're looking at special teams specifically.
Yeah.
So it's really, really hard for me to want to pick one over the other.
No, I wanted it to be hard.
Yeah.
But it's okay to give Edmonton its flowers for the strength of its power play. And also shout out to Edmonton for their 5v5 scoring just generally too. Like, I think Edmonton has been pigeonholed as just being a power play merchant team. And I think they have converted 5v5 more in these playoffs than before. And that has helped them to have more dimension beyond just an incredible power play, which is fine though. We'll separate it. We'll give Edmonton the power play win, Florida the penalty kill win.
If I had to pick in general, I would pick Florida.
Of course.
Yeah.
I picked Florida too.
Yeah.
That one was kind of loaded, baited.
Yeah.
I knew what to expect. This one, though, I think we can have some fun with, and it kind of ties everything together from this show.
Perfect.
Down to the mascots. Just kidding, not really. It's the biggest glow up between these two teams because it is a Stanley Cup final rematch, but these are 2 different teams from what they were a year ago. So I just wanted to chips down who had the biggest glow up. It doesn't necessarily mean who you think wins the series, but biggest improvements.
I mean, this is kind of backwards because Florida won last year, so it's hard to have a glow up after you won the cup. But players specifically, I think they deserve the win for this one. Brad Marchand and Seth Jones, 2 huge ads for that team.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do that. But yeah, when I'm looking at comparatively, I think that Florida had the biggest glow up.
Yeah, this is a tough one because you're right. Seth Jones and Brad Marchand are huge adds to this team that changed the complexion of it. And then, quietly, but Thomas Nosek, and Nate Schmidt, just like other like little new pieces that just round out the bottom of the decor with Nate Schmidt and Nosek, that fourth line, and huge penalty killer for them. So like that more minorly changes the complexion of Florida a year removed from the Cup. And then Edmonton, obviously trying to right this ship after forcing 7 games. Like, this was an interesting series for Edmonton last year, but they're entirely different in their identity and what they've worked on. So they've got a healthy Evander Kane, which is huge. That's a big difference. And they've got Darnell Nurse playing some of the best hockey of his life. They've got Evan Bouchard playing like a true number one defenseman. You know, he's known for his offensive threat, but has become a lot better defensively. And they get Matthias Ekholm back after he's missed some time, but that's a huge piece that I guess having him rested and back in the lineup through these playoffs makes a difference. And then this third pairing of like Jake Wallman and a rejuvenated John Klingberg, which is a huge storyline, I think, in these playoffs, because you asked me about John Klingberg a year ago, and I'm not sure about his utility in the NHL today. But for him to be a serviceable piece for Edmonton's back end has been crazy. And so this quote from Connor McDavid about the ways in which this team is different from last year's, I think, is very intriguing. He says, "We can play defense. The forwards are coming back really hard. Everyone's selling out blocking shots this time of year. That's what it takes." And I do think just the buy-in from Edmonton this year compared to last, it's more top to bottom, everybody's bought in, and I do think their commitment to the defensive side of the game is so much stronger. But the ways in which Florida improved with players like Jones and Marchand is almost unfair, especially when you look at the title defense season for the Avs. They were hanging together by a thread in that Seattle series, and it wasn't just losing Val Nichushkin that had them coming apart at the seams. It was just so hard to stay competitive a year removed from the Cup. And so Florida's ability to lose players, you know, like Brandon Montour, OEL from their back end, it changes the complexion of their group one year to the next, but they replenished it in a huge way with some of the additions. So as far as the biggest glow up, I'm going to go with a draw on this one. That is maybe a cop out, but you know, on paper, Florida does look really different, but in terms of execution process for Edmonton, they look really different too. And I want to give them a shout out.
So, who do you think's going to win the Cup?
Look, if we're going purely on our analysis here, Florida won the most categories.
Florida won the most. And this is really hard. Not based on all the categories that we put out. Who do you think's going to win?
I still thought it was Florida. And so maybe that clouded my judgment on some of these, you know? I still thought it would be Florida, like basing it on the hockey. I thought it would be Florida. And there's some hockey in this analysis, but a lot of it vibes. A lot of it vibes. And Florida still had the edge. I don't think it's coincidental. Like in talking about the mascots that we liked, the social media that we liked, having the social media capture the kind of chaotic essence of the team. I think the fact that there is a chaotic essence of the team for the Florida Panthers is why we favor them a little bit. They're just kind of, what's the word? Like they're willing to get down and dirty with it. And so I think that the skill upside of Edmonton is high, but the Warriors for Florida, just they will do whatever it takes, get their hands dirty to win. That's what I think means a lot in this.
This one's difficult for me. I think the Panthers are going to win the series. Okay, that's what I think based on skill. But I really want the Oilers to win.
Really?
So badly. And this being a rematch from last year's final, I just think that there's no way that the Oilers are going to let it happen again. Like, they've learned their lesson now, right? They're just going to come back stronger. And I'd like to see them end the cup drought in Canada.
Yeah.
It would be cool to see it same year that they win the Four Nations tournament and everything too.
Especially after the upset at Worlds, I think the
That's
Canadians need
also
a big
they need
win
something.
here. I don't know. I can't decide. Oh my god. Oh my god. So we got tagged with a picture of Hunter and his six-pack,
Oh gosh.
Caroline, on Twitter.
I'm scared.
Oh my god.
Wait, I can't look at it.
Okay. Well, while Chloe's
Is it
finding
scary?
this terrifying jump scare,
I'm
I want to
scared.
remind you guys about our friends at Accurate America. You never know when and where the hail will hit when the summer storms come, and the last thing you want is to be caught scrambling when it does, so make the call before the storm. Call Accurate America. They'll partner with you on navigating insurance and provide quick, professional, and knowledgeable service using the latest technology and 3D modeling. And the work is guaranteed as long as you own your home. Don't scramble at the last minute. Call Accurate America at 303-900-ROOF before the storm. Did you find it?
I did. Okay, but now that I'm seeing this, it makes a lot more sense why he didn't have a shirt on. Like, this is a context. It was a photo shoot. He lifted his shirt up for the photo shoot. Instead of me, in my mind, I was thinking he just took his jersey off in the middle of a game. And I was like, oh God, please no. This makes more sense, but I still don't like it. I don't.
I just want to know, when they were instructing him for this pose, for this photo shoot, like, what was the goal? What were we trying to convey here?
That's such a great question. I don't know.
And that's a great note to end it on. What were the Florida Panthers? No, the Edmonton Oilers trying to convey with Hunter the Lynx and his six-pack. All right, well, that's it for Pucks and Prosecco today. That's all you need to know for the Stanley Cup final, so I hope you're all well prepared. We sure are for it. We'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.